Hello, Eight of Cups family. Welcome to Eight of Cups Tarot and welcome to your weekly edit. Guys, really quickly, I just want to let everybody know that this is probably the last, I don't want to say quiet because it's not that quiet, but it's probably the last less eventful week of our year. So if there's any advice you take from any of this, use this time really wisely. If you are able to rest your body, rest your mind, meditate, take times out, take the time to breathe this week. Next week we get into some really intense transits and it's kind of one on top of the other, super intense for the rest of the year and kind of all the way through January as well. So just a forewarning, and I know that's easy to say because we've got the holidays coming, you know, and in every sense of the word, this is kind of like that last week before we start to panic and, you know, try to attempt all of the wrapping, all of the cooking, all of the shopping, all of the pressure is on as of next week. So honor yourself as much as possible this week. So going from Wednesday to Wednesday, we've got some interesting things going on. Some of these things we've talked about briefly before. Some of them are rather new. My favorite, my highlight of this week is this Mars square Jupiter. Now, there's a lot of ways that this can play out kind of harshly, especially in mundane astrology. These are two very masculine energies, and when they're in a square, it suggests an area of tension. But when we look at that masculine energy, we're talking about our ambition and drive. And when we add that to Jupiter's optimism and belief in self, we can achieve a lot of really fantastic things. This is where you're going to have a hard time. You're going to struggle with using the time wisely to rest because you're going to have this list of things ongoing in your head that you want to accomplish. And most likely you will be able to accomplish a lot of it this week, or at least get yourself in a better place psychologically where you're not so overwhelmed. So if you're not resting, then make sure you're being really productive in preparation as well. You want to be careful kind of around any sort of cockiness that you have with others. Like, this isn't really great for deep, loving, compassionate conversations, right? Like, we're on a mission this week. So people that get in the way, we could be like a little bit short fused. So you want to kind of take that in mind, and you also want to like check the ego a little bit. Just wonder if you feel yourself getting pulled or triggered by somebody. Start to question yourself. You know, self-awareness is always really good through this transit as well. But honestly, guys, you can get so much done. Make those lists. Take a look at the things. Even, you know, a reminder that we're still in the energy of the Neptune stationing. We're still getting a little more clarity each day, and we still have a few days left of that Mercury in Sagittarius, that boyish big thinking that we're all doing about the dream and how do we make it a reality. You know, Mars is wrapping up his time in Scorpio, which always represents like the fertility. What do we need to do to get this to grow? So it's a great time, still in the heart of that Sagittarius eclipse, to kind of take a look at how do we make these big dreams a reality? What are the little things that we can do on a day-to-day basis to bring this down to earth and materialize it in some way? Is there a book we can read? Is there, you know, somebody that we could reach out to for a conversation? Can we find ourselves with a new teacher or a new guru at this time? Somebody, you know, Mars, Jupiter kind of thing kind of reminds me a lot of like the Tony Robbins kind of vibe of like, how do you get motivated? And in fact, oddly enough, I found myself listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson over the past day or two. Maybe that is indicative of some of the stuff that you're going to experience, where you're finding like that voice, whether it's within you or an outside source that says you're worth it, keep going, you can make this happen. And I really, really love that message. So we have also talked about this Venus-Pluto situation. This is long-term, but it's perfecting this week. It perfects actually this weekend. Venus conjunct Pluto is no joke. This is a big thing. And usually it's not during a retrograde phase. So the last Well, it happened, I believe it was back in 2008 where we had this same retrograde. I'm not quite sure if it was completely conjunct Pluto. This time it is completely conjunct Pluto in Capricorn nonetheless. She's going to hit Pluto this week, and then a couple days later she stations to go retrograde. Now this means that we're having really big intense feelings and probably not sure how to handle them. So let the feels come up. Allow yourself to look at things, and this is also about facing our fears. You know, why aren't we able to make a move? Why aren't we believing in ourselves? Why, you know, issues with commitment, because we're talking about Saturnian themes with Capricorn as well. Commitments and structures in our lives, and what do we need and what do we require and what do we value that's so important in this transit. Venus is what we love, and in Capricorn she represents what is of true value, and that's not just about money, right? It's about our relationships, about the environment that we put ourselves in, how we take care of ourselves and our bodies, and the actual structures. Like Saturn represents our bones. So there could be like dental issues even coming up throughout this transit if you're somebody where this is hitting on an angle. Health issues for sure. So you want to really start to honor your body and your resource. You have to remember that not just money is resources. Your energy, your time, your emotions. Now the thing I want to tell you about Venus and Pluto, and we're going to talk about this a few more times because she's going to be going through this transit all the way through until March. The thing about Venus and Pluto is she could become a little sexualized, a little obsessive, okay? There's a lot of themes of jealousy, possessiveness that come in here. If you find yourself being triggered, probably a good time to look a little bit deeper within, right? Like Pluto offers us that ability to kind of do this psychological deep dive into our subconscious. It also often represents our past. So you may be playing out scenarios now that kind of remind you of or represent issues that were played out in your childhood or in past relationships. Kind of like looking at something really honestly and saying, are we going to do this pattern again, or are we going to break this pattern and do the healing so that we can find ourselves in good relationships? If you are in good connections right now, they will grow exponentially stronger. You can really enhance the level of intimacy and trust between you two, get to know each other at a very deep level, and these are all really great things. However, if you are in relationships in which you have power struggles with, most likely this transit over the next couple of months will pull you apart. And again, that's for the greater good, right? So that we could heal from those relationship patterns, discover where they come from within us. Why are we attracting these things? Why are we attracted to people that make us feel insecure? Because Pluto's all about the fears, right? When we associate something where we're fearful, but we also love it, this becomes a very confusing and deeply psychological thing. Now, again, Capricorn rules the government, so we're looking at power struggles between the people and the government, not just in the US. I mean, if you take a look, it's rampant everywhere. This is a huge theme. What do we value? Do we value our freedom, or do we value these structures? Do we need big government, you know, more government? And those, of course, are your own personal answers. I don't care which way. I'm just explaining to you why these issues are kind of coming to the surface right now so strongly. As well, we have a Sun square Neptune this weekend. This is a warning. This could be a little bit of an overdoing. Sun square Neptune can be a little bit of a messy transit in some ways. There could oftentimes be like a falling from grace. So Sun often representing a man or male figure, our own ego. And so I want to tell everybody right off the bat, like, careful this weekend. If you're overindulging, if you're going out drinking and partying, just be careful, you know, don't drive, get an Uber. Be careful about your surroundings. Make sure you're in a safe place, especially Venus and Pluto transit as well. You know, do all those things. Stay safe. Keep yourself safe. Keep your dignity safe. Make sure that that you're not overdoing it in some way that could actually harm you or put you in danger, okay? Otherwise, the Sun square Neptune transit can oftentimes be it's a energy of tension where we have to kind of gain clarity. There's a shattering of the illusions again. We've been going through this a lot this year. So if you're looking at the media and the way things are playing out now, things are getting exposed with, maybe not following the best ethics when it comes to journalism or whatsoever. Propaganda seems to be like a big thing, as well as the censorship, which is more leaning towards a Saturn-Uranus square. So there's kind of so much polarity right now in these two areas, and the Sun square Neptune ultimately goes, it's all leading us to a bigger truth, something that we didn't see before. Oftentimes this feels like we're taking off the rose-colored glasses, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That doesn't mean that you're like dating somebody and all of a sudden you're gonna see them as like a flawed human being. Sun square Neptune means that you no longer idealize them, you bring them down to your level, and you can reach them at a better place of intimacy. So again, in a lot of ways, like if we're in the right relationships, if we're in good situations, all of these transits can very much be blessings. I don't want anybody to be sitting in fear and worry over this, okay? Always choose the best way to use the energy. The other big shifts, we have two planets ingressing this week. We've got Mars moving into Sag, and this kind of feels like the wildfire. Now, Mars was really in a high dignity in Scorpio. He was in his home sign, so he was very powerful there. He doesn't lose a lot of that power when he moves into Sag because he's very comfortable in the fire signs, and especially the Sagittarius sign. Now, the only thing about that is Mars is technically, it's usually very disciplined in its masculinity and its ambition and its drive. With Sag, the masculinity can lean more towards freedom. Now, remember I said that we're looking at the world, we're looking at the way things are, we're wondering what our values are. Freedom is coming up over and over again. And we are really only within a 1-degree orb of the Saturn-Uranus square. So our freedom is gonna really be everything to us in a lot of ways. You're gonna wanna watch this energy though. It's gonna be hard to tame Mars down. There's a heavy ideology here, so you could start to see things flare up again. As far as people getting really political, yelling at each other on the internet can kind of come back in. So we're learning so many lessons. Like, we should be really evolving from that and finding solutions. The lower vibration is just a whole lot of hot air, right? That could oftentimes be Mars in Sagittarius. And the second big move is Mercury, which is flying through the sky so rapidly. We've got Mercury moving into Capricorn this week. I love this placement because he trines his home sign of Virgo, and he is comfortable in Capricorn. He's a little bit more dignified. He's a little bit more structured and refined here, which I think, especially with Mars moving into Sag, at least we have at the very same day Mercury moving into Capricorn, which can kind of tone down those things a little bit. Now, there's a financial element with all of this as well. We're going to start to really see how this Venus-Pluto is going to play out in the economy. We could start to see really huge fluctuations in the stock market and stuff like that. So you just want to prepare people for that. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on this inflation. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on, ramping up everybody's fears. Like, the world is coming to an end. We're all running out of money. Blah, 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 blah. We want to make sure that we stay grounded through all of this. Getting carried away will be much easier with Mars and Sagittarius. So it's a good idea to stay rooted and grounded, and every time you feel yourself moving into a place of fear or panic or anxiety, we want to tune into kind of that Neptune energy. We want to exercise some of our spiritual knowledge. We want to be able to sit and meditate. Tapping, there's a lot of great things that we can do to kind of soothe ourselves right now. Getting out in nature in any way, shape, or form, breathing that fresh air, even though I know it's very cold in some areas now, but even that cold air in our lungs will feel regenerative in a lot of ways. So make sure you're taking the time to do that. That'll be a big help this week. All right, guys, next week, we've got a lot of big energy. We've got that Saturn-Uranus really coming in a tight orb. The same time, we've got Venus stationing retrograde. We've got this big full moon in Gemini, and we've got Chiron moving direct. So big active week next week as well, probably more powerful. This middle of the month is this launching point to a lot of crazy stuff that's going to start happening. I'll be with you guys every step of it, every week, checking in. We've got the 3-card PickAPile. Pile number 1 is a red carnelian stone. Pile number 2 is a clear quartz, and pile number 3 is a black obsidian stone. So take a look at the thumbnail, see what calls to or resonates with you. Feel free to listen to all 3 and see what resonates, however you want to do it. Guys, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'm so grateful to be able to do this. Do me a favor, make sure if you're not getting notifications when I'm sending, every Wednesday I'm going to be posting these videos. If you're not getting the notifications, unsubscribe and then resubscribe to the channel. I think that can help with the notification process. Make sure you're hitting the bell for the notifications, all right? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a great week. Take care. Pile number 1, you chose a carnelian stone, which often represents an energy in which you're being asked to take action. Now we have a couple cards here about taking action. We have a King of Swords, which is very much about initiation. We have this card called the Initiation. And yet we have your archetype as the Cave. And I do sense in so many ways throughout this reading that there is a duality going on within you. Now, this Pluto hitting Venus, this is not an overnight transit. It's not something that we're just kind of going to deal with for a week or two and then everything's going to be better. Like, this is a long-term ongoing process. And you can expect that the things that you're feeling intensely right now, probably along the lines of like the bigger questions we face within our humanity. What is our purpose? What is our dreams? What are our goals in life? Do they even fit us anymore? Those aren't small questions. Venus with Pluto is intense, but Venus with Pluto in Capricorn is all about the value. And there's a shifting here. As I've been saying, leading up to this point, kind of preparing you guys all year long about the shifting in our priorities, suddenly the things we've always done may no longer resonate. The actions we've always took, the people that have always been in our lives, there is something that shifts within us. And then the outer world has to kind of make those adjustments. Some of you have probably been in a job or a relationship for 5, 10, 20 years, whatever it is. And then all of the sudden, over the course of 2021, things just don't feel right anymore. We've been through tremendous pressure. And that's kind of what the cave is about. It's about what happens when you isolate, when you go within. Now, let's be honest. The idea of entering a cave is kind of intimidating in and of itself, right? It's cold, it's dark, we can't really see what's around us. The very fact that you're initiating this journey into the darkness, and I don't think this is something you're just starting. I think this is something you have been doing for quite some time. And it's a super powerful place to be because this is where you meet yourself. This is where you confront the darkness, you accept it, you love it anyways, and you start to make decisions and choices in your life that are more reflective of who you are authentically. There are really amazing, beautiful resources that grow within caves, right? Like crystals. We find beautiful crystals within caves. And, you know, like if you've ever been to Mexico or any place where you could actually like go within a cave and then dive into a cenote, and the water is very cold, and you're not warmed by the sun, meaning it's very internal. There's not a lot of external stuff helping you through this process. This is really all about you, about who you are, and about what you want. And there is so much beauty, so much peace, so much quiet. You know, sometimes I think of that quietness, it could almost be haunting. We spend a lot of our adult life being so afraid of that kind of silence. And I suggest for some of you, if you are struggling to reach this place, if you're struggling to figure things out, the silence is probably where you need to go. Now we have the King of Swords and the Five of Cups right here. And I like this because there's a super intelligent detaching from the emotional past, right? Five of Cups. There's a different perspective on these things now. Why did you get disappointed in the past? Why did you make choices in the past? Why did you allow yourself to be fooled kind of by society? That's kind of how I want to say it. You know, sometimes when we're younger, we don't really know who we are, what we want. It's very easy to fall victim, right? We've got this Neptune card, sacrifice, which often is kind of this victim mentality. We're very young, and our parents and the society and school, like they all present like this status quo of what we're supposed to do, how our life is supposed to unfold. And because we don't know any better, because most of the time nobody tells us, hey, it's really important to find yourself first, right? Like if you think about society as a whole, we're so young when we graduate high school, if we're lucky enough to even reach that milestone. And then we're kind of shuffled into the college realm or the work realm, and there's really no time because society says you have to keep moving, you have to keep growing. It's all about the stability, it's all about the finances. Nobody ever tells you it's okay to isolate, it's okay to figure things out, it's okay to take time in silence. But there's so much greater intelligence that can come from that place. So oftentimes we do what we need to do, and then we reach this existential crisis, right? Like everybody reaches this in their early 40s, like their first Neptune, square Neptune. And it's kind of like this, it's kind of like this necessary evil where we reach a certain level of maturity and we start questioning everything we've ever done and why. Do we want to keep doing it? Neptune can be really tricky because we could also be really open and really vulnerable to the exterior sources as well. Because when we're not on stable ground, which Neptune will never provide stable ground, this is when we go to a metaphysical realm, when we go to the dream state, when we go into a certain level of our subconscious that we don't often work with. And it really kind of confuses everything. And I like that you're coming out as a King of Swords because there's like this super Zen quality about the King of Swords, especially in this deck. He has the ability to kind of view his life from the mountaintop, from a very detached place, right? Like when we get distance and perspective on things, they look a lot different than when we're like in it, you know? I mean, when we're in relationships, so to say, or we're in a job and we're like struggling to make this thing happen, if we take a step back, if we detach, if we realize that our jobs, our relationships, all of these exterior things in our lives, they are not of us. They're created by us, but they are not our identity. See, society tells us that those things are our identity. As well, society frames our hurts, our mistakes, our disappointments, our heartbreaks as our identity. We take those things so seriously here. And really, we're meant to go through those things. We're meant to feel those things. We're meant to have those emotional experiences. We are here to learn. Never, ever forget that we are spiritual beings having an emotional experience. It is never the other way around. And this life isn't supposed to be taken so seriously. The responsibility of others isn't really our biggest investment, right? And the King of Swords and the Five of Cups is kind of putting the past into a higher perspective, understanding that those things had to happen because now you are a stronger version of self. Strength card. My guess, King of Swords, Five of Cups, the Strength card, is that all of these things that happened, right? All of these disappointments, the way things didn't work out, was a blessing in disguise. But at the time when they weren't working out, right? Like we get an idea in our head, we fall in love with a person, we can't imagine what life would be like if this person wasn't in our life, if this job didn't work out, if we didn't get the income or the house that we wanted. And life is here to tell us that what we are attached to oftentimes are the very things we have to lose in order to find ourselves. There's gifts there, right? We've got, look at the bigger picture, full moon and Sag, Neptune, sacrifice. See, when Neptune comes along, we get to look at the bigger picture. We get to see it in a different lens. It's sort of like a kaleidoscope. All of a sudden, all of those life experiences, they get all mixed up, and you have to start to sort through what they really were to you. You know, at times, like if you've ever gone through a divorce or a really bad breakup, and in the moment, it feels like there's really no point to life, right? And that's a good way to know that you're putting way too much emphasis on the external things in your life. Never, ever in this lifetime is something removed from you that makes you unworthy of living. It makes you unworthy of continuing on. And this is a reminder that there is more to do, there is more to experience, and there's probably a smarter, better way to go about it. And you could start to look at things from such a different view because you found yourself, because you did that inner work, because you saw how you contributed to these things. Now, if you've ever been a part of a codependent situation in some way, and these could happen in all different manners. It's never just like a love relationship, you know. We can have codependency even with our jobs, a codependency in our jobs. We have to keep going to this job because we have to pay our bills, but is it serving our soul? Does it feel like we have a purpose? Do we feel like we're leaving the world a better place? Because this Neptune sacrifice card means all of a sudden we look at life in a different lens and we say, what are we contributing to the world? A 9-to-5 job, paying the bills, maybe that isn't everything. Keeping that marriage together, making these sacrifices, even though you are not happy in this relationship, That isn't what it's about. We have the Three of Wands in reverse and the Five of Pentacles in reverse. And this is like a lowering of your own expectations. And of course, the very end, we have this death and rebirth. Now, you're entering a cave, which is kind of significant because it does feel like a death process. Three of Wands, Five of Pentacles. There's this energy of putting an end to the waiting, right? I love that the Five of Pentacles comes out in reverse because you're stepping out of this lack mentality. Like the idea that if we don't keep going in the direction we chose 5, 10, 15 years ago, everything's going to fall apart. And the Three of Wands is like us waiting for life to get better. But if we don't actually make the moves to do the things to feel better, it's never going to happen. And if we can pull in, if we could really start to look at our lives, the bigger picture, how am I contributing? How am I nurturing myself? How am I going to initiate this change? Because you are absolutely, we all, as Venus comes into this conjunction with Pluto, we are all going through a death and rebirth process. The things we thought mattered all of a sudden don't matter that much. And the things that we didn't think were all that important become huge. I remember a long, long time ago, I was sitting in a corporate meeting and somebody said to me, they presented kind of the wheel, and there was like different spokes on this wheel, and how is your friendships? How would you rate your marriage or your partnerships? How would you rate your career? And one of the things was spirituality and religion. And at the time, I was so invested in family and marriage and career that I had never really given a whole lot of thought to the whole religious and spiritual practice. And then I went through a death and rebirth process. I went through a Pluto square. I lost a lot of the things that I thought were the very most important things to me. I thought that if these structures in my life were to disappear, if they were not existent, then I would lose myself. But the fact of the matter was, when they did disappear, going through the pain, I came out realizing that I was still the same person. I had a shift in priorities. All of a sudden, the areas on that wheel, on my personal wheel, that were not so important to me became immensely important to me. And when that became adjusted, the wheel started to turn. There was more flow. I was stepping into a new form. Look, we will never, ever be the same person we are when we are born. We will never have the same ideas. The planets move through cycles and changes. We are meant to move through cycles and changes. Every 12 years, we go through a Jupiter phase. Every 20 years, there's a Saturn phase. These are all really big phases in our lives. And as we leave one phase and enter another, everything begins to shift. Our priorities begin to shift. And here we have the crossing, initiation. Like, this is just such a rite of passage reading to me, because you're going through really immense changes. And the best thing that you could do right now is to trust yourself and your instincts, which means that there is a part of you need to isolate. This isn't a time to reach out to other people and be like, hey, what do you think about this idea? Hey, what if I did this? Hey, what if I left this marriage? It's not a time for other people's opinions, right? You're in the cave. You're finding your own crystals within your own soul. You're figuring yourself out. Nobody is ever going to be able to tell you that. You're cultivating your own magic within you. And it's such a personal process. Now, that's not to say that you feel alone and isolated. See, what happens when you become so strong within yourself is other people, like-minded people, people that are at that vibration, people that have been through this process, they begin to gravitate towards you. And therefore, you build with these people that are on that same mentality, the universe is never going to leave you behind. You're never going to reach a phase of rebirth in which the universe doesn't embrace you. The universe is always going to provide. You're always going to be okay. You are free to change. Look at full moon and Sag. Look at the big picture. Sagittarius is all about the freedom. Suddenly these little things that you held so much importance on, that you put so much effort into, they're not really going to matter. If you're trying to hold on to people, hold on to relationships, if there's anything in your life right now that you're trying to micromanage and control, it's best to just let it go. Look, people are going to be who they are. They're going to choose their own paths. They're going to do their own thing. You have to watch you. You have to know that your future, right? 3 of Wands in reverse, like, because it's in reverse doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that there's a different way of looking at it. It's a promise of prosperity and success. It's a promise that you are on the right path. But it's also a promise that this path is going to look a lot different than it did in 2019 or in 2020. Right? You don't move through the transits of the Saturn-Uranus square without coming out deeply changed. We have the crossing, initiation. Card number 9, you're nearing the end of this process. And right here underneath the death and rebirth card, we have the Tao card, which is called bright future. Balanced elements. So you're going into your cave, so to speak, and you're balancing out all of your elements. And it's important to understand that. It's important to understand, just like I said, the wheel, there's a flow. Life flows much easier if there is equal parts of all of these really important pieces in your life. And if there is something that is way out of balance, if you're investing way too much in your relationships and not enough in your career or your future, or vice versa, or if you're investing way too much into your children or you know, taking care of other people, your friendships, and you're not paying attention to your spiritual needs or your health, even for that matter, you know, you could do all the chanting and you know, spiritual stuff in the world, but if you're not paying attention to your body, if you're not respecting your health, this vessel isn't going to get you very far. This is about finding a way to balance all of the elements. Hope truly springs eternal. Aspiration has been your driving force through difficult times. Your future is filled with love, laughter, and fulfilled dreams. Embrace these blessings with outstretched arms. See what happens when you're in this balanced place, when you start to see the bigger picture, when you let go of the disappointments and the pain, and you understand that that was just all a part of your path so that you could become the beautiful person that you are. When you can embrace all of that, then you learn to receive, because you find the beauty in the universe. You see God in everything. Even the bad things become blessings. You start to leave that victim mentality, 5 of Pentacles, 5 of Cups, that lack mentality. You detach from the emotional hurts, from the way that it scarred your ego, and you start to realize those were such valuable lessons, and you become grateful for them. And I tell you guys that all the time. The best way to change your energy, to change your course of your life, is to become so deeply grateful for all of the things, the dark things, the bad things, the heartaches. You become so deeply grateful for them because they built you into this person that you are. They made you this fantastic version of self. You are so much wiser, right? Like, we're not coming out of this phase in like a fool mentality. We're no longer naive about life. We're no longer going to allow other people to say, hey, you should do this. You should go there. You should be with this person. Can't do that. Like that, none of that matters. The way people see us doesn't matter. We've seen the beauty from within. We've seen the flaws. We've seen the dark caverns. We've seen the spiders and the bats that live within our souls. And we learn how to embrace all of that. And we understand that that is also part of our power. And when you come out of this phase, you believe in yourself so deeply that there is simply nothing that can scare you or deter you from the things that you know resonate with your soul. Very intense reading, guys. It is an intense period. This week is really intense, especially with that Mars at the final degrees of Scorpio, kind of making this sextile over to that Pluto and Venus conjunction. It is intense. It is motivating, and it is so beautiful. You know, a year ago, I looked at these transits and I thought, wow, this is really scary. And for a lot of people that aren't like on the spiritual realm, if they're not inviting evolution and growth into their life, it probably will feel really frightening. But for those of us that understand the ebbs and the flows and the cycles of life, this is ourselves stepping into the pure power and essence of who we are after a long time of being lost. And it's super empowering, and it's really a beautiful thing. All right, pile number 1, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much. I hope this helps, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Okay, pile number 2, you chose a Smokey Quartz. This is always, it's my absolute favorite crystal. I literally carry them everywhere. I've got them in my purse, in my car, in my pockets all the time, surrounded by them. To me, it is a beautiful form of protection. And I do feel like there's something that you are protecting. Something in my heart tells me that there's maybe a vision of a new endeavor or a new journey that you want to take, and maybe it's brand new. It's still maybe in the vision state, but it's something that deeply resonates with you. But it may not play out so easily in the external world, right? Like if you were to tell somebody, I want to quit my job and write poetry, they would most likely say to you, well, good luck paying your bills. Probably make you feel like this is irresponsible, right? Like that's all all these messages with this Venus Pluto conjunction is like the society versus our souls. What are we going to choose? Where's the value? Now look, you're going to find a lot of people saying, no, I'm going to keep paying my bills. And they're going to keep paying their bills. They're going to still stay stuck in these forms of karma. Now, I don't want to tell everybody like, now's the time to like quit your job and write poetry if that's your dream. Like there has to be a certain level of responsibility because we're still human. We still have to survive. So in no way, shape, or form am I telling people that pick pile number 2 to just recklessly abandon your lives and go do what you truly love. There obviously has to be a balance, right? But so often as humans, we just blow this whole thing off as that's impossible. We hear other people say it. We grow up with parents and teachers and whatever telling us, well, that's just impossible. Yeah. How many times you say you want to grow up and like when you're a child and you're like, I want to grow up and be a Broadway star, and somebody's like, probably not likely. What's your plan B? We always learn that we got to have a plan B. And the thing is, the plan B gives us an escape so that we don't have to really put all our bags in the basket of plan A, which means we don't believe in ourselves. Now, I want to point out to you your archetype card that came out, the Creator, is the number 22. We're entering 2022, right? It's a 6-year. This is ruled by Venus. It's about our heart. It's about our soul. And it's about understanding that when we believe in things, when we have faith, right? 2021, Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius, it was all like testing us. Like, how much are you going to believe? Society is going to bring you back down to reality. It always has and it always will. But those that can remain in a state of belief and faith, that even when the world is falling apart, something better is being created, you have a superpower and the universe meets you. I know we listen to all these people. You probably listen to YouTube videos, Abraham Hicks, whatever it is, the power of manifestation. There's 100 million ways to, like, it's shoved down our throats. If you want to go down this avenue, it is endless. But there is truth in it. It's not a gimmick. We create our realities. You are in a state of the creator. You get to look at your life and you get to say, I have always had this dream and I have put it off for so long for a dozen different reasons. But I'm going to tell you that now is the time. Now is the time to make these things happen. Now, you may not be able to quit your 9-to-5 job, right? We still have to put food on the table. We still have to do those things. But if you start to shift and prioritize so that you have more time, that you can dedicate yourself to writing poetry or performing music or whatever that dream is, it's very likely that this can come to fruition quickly. And we have the Knight of Swords, which is an energy of moving very fast. I feel as though you are running towards something and then boom, there's a brick wall, 6 of Cups in reverse. As you start to make these decisions and these choices, the universe is going to throw a whole bunch of roadblocks in your way. Like, this to me is the energy of testing your commitment to the dream. 6 of Cups in reverse. For some of you, these are relationships, these are people. This might be like your dream, and these are all just silly examples. They're not silly if they are your dream. I would never tell you any dream that you have is silly. But if you want to go move to New York City and be a Broadway star, then most likely there's something you have to leave behind. There's relationships, there's commitments, there's, this is a card of soulmates, siblings, whatever it is to you. And these are the things that are holding you back. And you say to yourself, well, how can a soulmate hold me back? Well, they're not here forever, right? Like, we have to understand that. We have to understand that we're not living this life just to do the same old thing and stay safe until we die. That's not what this existence is about. This is about experiencing all of the things we can. And because we are powerful creators, some of us that believe in the fact that we're powerful creators have really wonderful, amazing experiences. And then there's the other part of us, there's the other part of society that gets married, stays married for 50 years. And that's a beautiful story as well. You have beautiful, wonderful experiences in that story as well. But that's because that's what you wanted to create. So you have to start looking at what you want to create, and you have to start looking at the roadblocks that are in the way of that creation. You have to start understanding what they are, what the process is. To me, there's an element here of overthinking and giving up on the dream. Like trying to put it all together and make it make sense on paper. Like you have this crazy dream and then you start to write down your goals, your aspirations. How do I get this done? And all of a sudden it becomes very overwhelming, and you look in the mirror and you're like, this is crazy and it's never going to happen. And you start to give up on it. 6 of Cups in reverse, right? It starts to feel more like a fantasy that is unattainable. And when we start to look at our dreams and we feel like they're unattainable, Knight of Wands, it takes the wind out of our sails. It takes the fire out of us. See, we overthink and we put too much emphasis on the emotion. We put too much emphasis on the things that have to occur, the people that we have to disappoint in order to make this happen. And all of a sudden, it becomes overwhelming and we just don't want to do it anymore. We forget that we're the creator. We forget that we could have whatever we want. Now we have this take time to breathe out, disseminating moon. There's like all of this built up energy wanting to burst out of you and 100 million reasons why you can't and shouldn't do it. This is a point of duality. And you have to take a step back. You have to know that it's not going to happen overnight. You have to understand that this too is a process. Look, Venus is dancing with Pluto for 3 months. Really 4 months. This isn't overnight. But this is a chance to take a step back and just kind of, when you get overwhelmed, because this can put you, like, we've got this water element sensing, and I think this goes both ways. Like, there's something that your soul is being pulled towards. There's something you know you want, something that you know you want to experience, something that you know you love, and it kind of pulls at you in like a very intuitive way. It may not make sense on paper. It may not work out ideally right away. But if we put one foot in front of the other, like, look at this person is literally putting one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. If we break it down and we take the pressure off, we can get there. We can still believe that we are the creators. So you give away your power here, and that's what Pluto is going to teach you. If you're giving away your power, Pluto's going to show you how it's happening. He's going to allow people to manipulate you. You're going to feel sorry for people. You're going to feel like you're not brave enough, like you're not good enough. You're going to have like the whole imposter syndrome going on, all these self-doubts creeping in, and all of a sudden the thing that you wanted so badly doesn't even seem worth it. And you just gave away all of your creative power. Now is not a time, because you have Venus there. You have the greatest benefic that we have, 2 of the greatest benefics in the sky, and they're all going to start working with you and for you. Jupiter's ending his whole entire, it's been almost 3 years that Jupiter has been cohabitating with Saturn, meaning all of this expansion that we wanted to experience was very much in the realm of not quite what we thought it was going to be. But that means we had time to like incubate these dreams. We had time, like 2020 gave us nothing but time to figure out what we want, who we are. So we started to cultivate this other side, this more creative side of ourselves. Now's not the time to take the wind out of your sails. Now is not the time to allow yourself to get overwhelmed. And this is about trusting yourself. Look, when you have a desire, when you have these deep thoughts and desires, that's not something to make little of. That's the universe kind of whispering in your ear. That's divinity saying, hey, this resonates with your soul. This is part of your purpose. Think back to the things that you did as a child before you realized that these things were silly. Think back to what resonated with you and the things that you believed in. Because nobody, like, when we were children, we believed in Santa Claus, right? Like, what a beautiful thing. And because we believed, it happened. And we grow up and life starts to lose its magic. And I think it's really important to know that the calling that you have, it's very much a part of your magic. And you don't get to give that away for anything or anyone. That's a part of you. Now in the center here, we have the Knight of Wands and the Judgment. See, what's going to happen is you're going to start to stray off your path. You're going to start to give up on yourself, and the universe is going to pull you back in. Unmarked trail revelations. Now, hopefully, these won't be hard lessons. This is just going to be like a quick like blip, like when you learn how to ride a bike for the first time and you're learning how to balance and you start to shift a little more to one side and then you realize that you could quickly rebalance, like this is it. This is what the universe is inviting you to do, is to reestablish a balance. Every time you get a little bit off to one side, the universe is going to pull you back in. But you have to be aware that the universe is talking to you, which means you can't give up in believing in the magic. If you are putting too much of an emphasis on other people and external circumstances, the universe is probably going to make those things less substantial in your life. It's going to show you that those things don't have to be there and that you could survive without them. And that could be painful at times. You know? But it's all part of the rebalancing. It's all part of the believing in self again. And right after that, we have this Two of Wands and this Queen of Cups. This Queen of Cups is my absolute favorite Queen of Cups in any deck. She's so soft. She's so surrendered. And she's so willing to receive. This is where we start to put ourselves in a better place. We start to make these possibilities an actual reality. We take the vision, okay? There's the vision, there's the idea that this thing can happen. And then because of this judgment that comes in, because of these revelations that start to happen, because the universe starts to make it obvious by contrast, most likely. When something doesn't feel right, when we're in a bad element, like, okay, you want to go out and do this crazy thing for a living, but you're not quite brave enough to leave that 9 to 5. Well, all of a sudden you're going to start realizing that every day you go to that 9 to 5 job and it doesn't feel right. The contrast seeps in. You start to feel sick. You start to not like physically feel well in this environment, you know. If you're in bad relationships that are kind of taking away from your ability to believe in a brighter future, those things are going to get really bad. Like I'm telling everybody, this Venus and Pluto, like if you are in destructive relationships that are taking your power away, if you're with a narcissist or if you're with somebody that manipulates you or uses you for your energy in any way, if it's not authentic to your experience, those things are going to dissolve. And it's not a time to sink your claws in and try to make things stay. Okay? Sometimes the Six of Cups can represent like this undying loyalty. Like we have the dog here, like we are loyal to this thing. And that's great to be loyal, but we also have to know that certain things expire. They're not meant to stay with us forever. And really, the loyalty in and of itself is your loyalty to yourself. Your loyalty to your self-care, to your ability to be centered and to love yourself. And if there's anybody or anything in your life that makes you feel like you are undeserving, that's getting solved. That's what this Venus-Pluto thing is all about, so that you could start to believe in yourself again. The vision comes, right? Two of Wands. That's a promise of prosperity. It's a promise of new things coming in. Like they are being born. As things are ending, new things are coming. And it's okay to be emotional, but it's not okay to have a pity party. It's not okay to take these things personally, right? It's a really good idea to understand that anything that's falling apart right now is, believe me, it's for your greater good. It's the universe clearing your path and saying to you, all right, this thing that you said you always wanted, now is the time. Queen of Cups, she is ready. She has the belief, she has the ability to receive, and she is fully and completely ready to do this. And what I love here, we have this new journey, fire, which I think is the Knight of Wands kind of being turned right side up, right? Like the Knight of Swords is being a little bit in your head, which takes away from the initiator process. But here you're fire because of your self-love, because of knowing through contrast, through your intuition that certain things are no longer right for you. It leads you to the things that are right. These are the people and the things in your life that will help you to believe in it, will help you to believe that this is possible. New journey, fire. You have known of this new venture for some time and you have prepared well for it. Resonate with your calling and move forward without looking back. Your courage and determination will be celebrated. Guys, if you are feeling like you are lacking that fire within, you've got to protect the fire. You cannot let anybody else or anything else get in your head and tell you that this isn't possible. Because you know, Queen of Cups, water element sensing, you know that this has always been and will always be a part of your path and destiny. And now is the time to do it. I get the feeling for some of you, this thing that you want to do it's a little unorthodox, probably. It's a little out of the ordinary, like people probably wouldn't understand. And maybe there's people in your life that really do love and care about you, but because they don't have that open mind, they're seeing what you're doing as a threat to your existence, right? They're kind of taking over the ego. Like as we start to detach from that ego part of us, the negative ego, right? There's a very positive part of our ego as well. But as we start to detach from the negative side of our ego, sometimes the people in our lives become a voice for it. Like we want to go off on this journey and somebody's like, yeah, but what if this happens? What if that happens? What if you're broke? What if you can't feed yourself? You know, and they start to like put all these doubts in our head. And the Queen of Cups says, no, I'm going to shut all of that out because I know that if I believe in this, it is all the more likely to happen. If I invite those self-doubts, if I invite all those thoughts in my head, I'm just throwing dirt on my own dreams. This is a really exciting time, guys. This is a really exciting reading. Please take note of anything in your environment that makes you feel like you're losing your belief. Pay attention to things that drain you. Make sure that you're in nurturing environments. If you have people in your life, I don't care if they are very, very close to you. I don't care if it's your mother or your spouse or your best friend. There's going to come a point where you have to protect your own energy. This thing that you're doing is very much a part of your path. And not only that, but it's most likely something that society as a whole needs from you, which is why the universe is supporting you so much. So protect your energy, protect your dream. You are the creator. This is possible. And now is the time to start putting one step forward. Leave the self-doubt behind. All right, incredible reading, guys. Pile number 2. I love you so much. And I will check in with you guys next week. Take care. All right, pile number 3, you guys chose the black obsidian stone. Also another stone of protection, but to me, it's in such a more powerful way. It's, I don't know. The Smokey quartz to me kind of keeps you safe in the everyday world, right? The black obsidian to me keeps the negativity away. It keeps the negative people, the nightmares kind of away from our lives. And I do turn to this stone at times when I do feel any kind of like a psychic sometimes when you're empathic, you could start to feel a pull from other people, and you have to really protect your energy. And it's important to understand that with the black obsidian, especially at a time like, look, this is a crucial time for society as a whole, for the entire collective. Not everybody is going to handle this energy the same way. Whenever Pluto and Venus is involved, it's very, very intense, but it can move in either direction. Either you meet and find the greatest kind of love, or you could find yourself staring in the face of something very frightening and negative, right? So for instance, in society, the kind of negative lower vibration of this Pluto Venus is when you're looking at these really beautiful cities kind of ridden with crime. And we kind of have to really look at it, right? I think this is an invitation to acknowledge that although there is some very real, awful parts of society and life, we are still safe. Now, your archetype is that of the bridge. This is about connection. This is about building the bridge between two different entities, two different parts of self, two different realities. Now, to me, there's a lot about coming together here, most likely in a relationship. That's just kind of what my pool is here. And the bridge is a reminder that we cannot force anything, because if you force the connection, it doesn't grow in a way that is nurtured and safe. But also, if you're starting to sense a connection happening, it's a time to trust it, right? Like this whole reading's kind of telling me that there might be elements of fear coming in within you, like you're starting to analyze this, like what is this? Where is this going? Is this person gonna hurt me, or am I safe? And I'm gonna tell you right now, you are safe. And I'm gonna tell you right now that the very essence of this situation is to teach you how very, very safe you are. And that no one can take that from you, and that this is part of the existence, is building this bridge to connect these people to you. No man is an island. We're not meant to be alone, okay? Now we have our sovereignty, meaning that we can't be codependent. We don't need anybody else to survive, but the existence is very much to share with others. Now we have the Queen of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles, so most likely here. And I love the Queen of Wands, and I love this card because there's all these candles, right? This represents to me Sagittarius season. Sagittarius kind of rules candles. It rules light within the dark, the hope within the fear. And she's got this black cat with her, right? Like the element of protection and intuition. There's so much about this, the polarity between, is this safe? Is this something that I truly want and desire? Or, are you trusting yourself? Are you trusting this experience? Because I don't see anything happening to make you feel like it is unsafe. I think for all intents and purposes, the universe is kind of rolling out the red carpet and saying, okay, clearly this is the thing that you are meant to experience at this time. It's safe to fall in love. It's safe to make this commitment. It's safe to take this to the next level. But there's the other part of us, right? Seven of Pentacles, it could be a little over analytical. And the Chariot card right next to it, that of Cancer, could mean that we're like really in our feels. See, there's the black and the white. There's like the polarity between the two. But what you truly desire is forward movement. The Seven of Pentacles, you've planted the seed and you're simply waiting for the growth. Again, we can't force it, right? Like when we plant a seed, we can't force it out. And what's so interesting is right underneath the Seven of Pentacles, we have it's time to take action, new moon in Aries. Now there's a lot of duality here, because in one way I want to tell you that it's time to take action. But as a reminder, it's not time to force anything, right? We can't force the seed to grow. We can't force the bridge to be built. We don't have control over other people. But it is also a reminder that when it begins to unfold without resistance in your life, most likely it is meant to be a part of your existence. So there's no need to resist what is flowing easily to you. Now, I see these seeds being planted. I see the roots hardy. I see the plant coming to fruition. And we know that that happens in the springtime during Aries season. And I think it's important to understand that right now, where you are is sort of in the forming of the bridge. Meaning, we're not in a place of like real commitment here. If this is a relationship or, you know, whatever this is to you. Very much feel like it's a relationship. So if that's not resonating with you, maybe this isn't your reading. But there's things that are happening beneath the surface, maybe, that you don't truly understand. What's lacking here is any sorts. And I think it's important to start to include communication. Now we have the spirit of the river, movement towards adventure, but we also have this really beautiful blue coloring. And to me, the blue represents the throat chakra. There needs to be communication in order to feel stable. And that you're probably not like there yet. You're not at that commitment level, but you do sense that it's coming. You do sense that this thing, this person has come into your life for a purpose. Most likely because we've got, look at these 7 of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles, like we're building long-term lasting things. Like this is a lot of cardinal energy. And we have an element of desire. We have the Queen of Wands and the 4 of Wands. And the Chariot represents alignment. So most likely emotions and love are meeting passion and determination, and there's so much happening at one time, and maybe it's a little bit unstable. And so when we're lacking a stability, when we feel like we're getting a little carried away, then what do? We kind of cling back to earth, right? Earth element stability. We can kind of play this game with ourselves. We could start to second guess things like, is this really what I think it is? And, you know, we have all these conversations with ourselves. Well, it's really important to start having conversations with the other person. Remember, you're building a bridge. You don't build a bridge only on one side. Like both people, both sides need to come together. So there needs to be collaboration and communication. Now that might feel unsafe for you, right? We've got all this love. We've got all of this passion, which means we've got a whole lot of vulnerability. It might be really hard to say what you're feeling. It might be really hard to explain what you think this is or where it's going. And you might be really afraid because this means something really special to you. Remember the bridge, you don't want to force it. So maybe you're not saying things because you don't want to force what you're feeling on other people. And end of the reading is the 4 of Cups, which represents complacency. And the only reason we get to a place of complacency is because we're not really ready to speak up as to what it is we want or what it is that we need. Guys, there's no joke here. Venus and Pluto, you gotta say what you need. You have to start to trust that the things, the people in your life, like this seems so beautiful to me. And you feel safe, you feel protected. I don't think in any way, shape, or form should anybody listening and resonating with this third pile feel unsafe in this situation in any way. Like, look, you've got the Queen of Pentacles and the Chariot. This is earth and water. There's fertility here. There is growth here. It may not happen overnight, but the very beauty of the growth, watching this grow and knowing that you are stable, that there is no rush. Oftentimes when we feel that like need to cement it or to have like guarantees. It's because intuitively we know something's not right. Now, that's often a lesson we learn the hard way, right? Like when we're young and we fall in love and like right away, like we want to cement this down. We want to make the commitment because we're afraid that, you know, if we don't lock it down now, like what if they find somebody else, or, you know, what if there's someone better? Well, as you start to mature and you understand, like the best thing that could happen if there's somebody else that's meant for them, that they find them. Right? Like, why would we want to deny that in somebody that we love? That's not how it's supposed to work. So there's an element of communication that's needed. And I think the more that you are willing to communicate and be vulnerable, I think you're going to be met on the other side from the other person with very mutual regards. Again, you two are kind of building this bridge. We've got two hands literally reaching out to each other. Now, they're not holding hands, but there is yet an energy exchange here. There's a pooling of two entities together. And I love the way that we have this beautiful rainbow colors here. We have rainbow colored here, here, and even here. I mean, there's like a feeling of adventure and happiness and brightness that comes from these cards for me. If you are stuck feeling like you are not safe or like this isn't happening, it's probably because of your lack of action, right? It's time to take action. You are afraid to take action because you are putting too much emphasis on your stability. Now, what happens a lot of times, like if we've lost a lot through other relationships, even like financially, right? Like if you've been through a divorce, you've taken that financial hit and you're like, oh my God, like why would I ever want to sacrifice or take those risks again? But you're wiser and you're in a more mature place and you could begin to trust yourself and see, I don't see any codependency here. I don't see anybody trying to take what isn't theirs or try to drain the other person in any way. The biggest risk I see within these cards is that you don't speak up about how you feel, and therefore you kind of stay in this place of almost connection, meaning you don't implement the building of the bridge. Now we have the Queen of Pentacles and we have the Four of Wands, and these two cards together are so amazing to me. Like this energy here is the universe in full support, right? Like, you know, you're on the right path. I'm going to tell you a story. When we're in times in our life of major change, when you're making those changes and everything starts to unfold rapidly and easily before your eyes and with very little effort, that is a universe telling you there is no resistance here. This is meant for you. Now, I went through a very hard time. I made some very hard decisions in my life. I went through a divorce, and I probably dragged out the leaving process much longer than I needed to because there was all of this guilt and, you know, like that's what we do as humans. We hesitate and we second guess ourselves and we stay in situations too long and we carry that with us. And then we start to view other situations in that way. Like, I don't ever want to feel stuck like that again. I don't ever want to be in a position where I can't leave, right? And you know that, or I know that when I started to put one foot in front of the other and start to do the things I needed to do to leave, because I knew that that was no longer resonating with me, everything started to work out so rapidly. Like I found an apartment. It was available the very day I needed it to. The movers were available. I can't tell you how much everything just started to fall into place. Anytime that I felt a moment of doubt or insecurity, there was even occasions where like a stranger would come up out of nowhere and say something to me. And it was like a message from spirit that says, you're on the right path. This is the right thing to do. And I feel like you're so wildly supported in this endeavor. I feel like this bridge is such a divinely guided inspiration. We could have all of those other negative experiences, and of course we could drag them in together. But it's important to understand when things unfold with such ease, when you find people that you connect with so much ease, that they are very much most likely meant to be a part of your life, a part of your world. It doesn't have to feel heavy, and it doesn't have to feel frightening. And honestly, it's important to understand that when something or someone is truly meant for you, there's nothing really that you can do to screw it up. Certainly not like saying you love them, certainly not telling them that you need something, or that, you know, kind of wearing your heart on your sleeve and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. If it's meant for you, it's never, ever gonna have a negative reaction. And so the worst thing that could happen is you allow yourself to be vulnerable early on, and somebody says, well, I don't find that attractive, or, that doesn't work for me. Well, then great. Let's move on to the next adventure. Now we know, right? I don't think we're here to waste time, and I don't see any neediness. Like, there's nothing that I need this person in my life. Like, I don't need this person to pay my bills. I don't need this person to create some sort of stability for me. This comes from a place of, I want this person in my life because I enjoy their energy, because they inspire me, because they make me want to be a better person, and they make me want to experience more of life. There's no heaviness here. There's no obligation here. There's just pure happiness. And that's why I'm telling you that this feels very much like the path of least resistance. So any hesitation on your part is coming from a fear, most likely from old experiences. And the worst thing that you can do is hold yourself back by allowing those old experiences to hold you back, instead of believing that this can be something very different, and this could be a part of your life that you're very much meant to experience at this time. Now we have Spirit of the River, movement towards adventure. We have the Chariot card, which is all about the movement forward. Look, the universe is going to pull you forward. You could stare at these seeds, they're being planted. You could have faith that they're growing. Like the Queen of Pentacles has absolute faith. Regardless of what the environment is, she knows that she herself planted those seeds with love, and therefore they will grow through love. There's no doubts. There's no worry. There's no codependence here. There's just simply faith. And what is meant for me will blossom and grow, and what is not will wither away. And you have a choice now to play it safe, okay? Now we have this card of abundance here. You are nurtured, protected, and guided by one of the most powerful deities of Taoism. The time has come to harvest all that you have sown. Continue to follow the path that is yours alone, and you are assured of abundant success. I love that because it comes out beneath the Four of Wands and the Four of Cups. Now, the Four of Wands is kind of like what could happen if you build this bridge, if you come together here. And to me, this represents that fiery adventure. But the Four of Cups is what happens if you don't build this bridge, what happens if you don't give this a try, if you don't put in the effort, if you don't say those things. And that's just further complacency. And see, that's what happens when you connect to something on a level of lack mentality. If there's anything in you that feels like you don't deserve this, or if you feel like you don't want to share in some way, like you've got to be willing to share. We all say, oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about this meme I saw, and I think I brought this up in another reading. We all say that we want unconditional love, and then we put a whole bunch of conditions on it, right? We start to judge this person. We're like, oh my God, but they did that, so this isn't going to work out and I'm not going to tell them that I'm falling in love with them. Well, that's just so silly. It's just such a silly mentality, and you're going to keep yourself in a stagnant, unhappy place because you put these conditions on things. That's not how the universe works, and that's not how love works, and that's not how good relationships and healthy relationships work. You know you deserve abundance, and whatever abundance means to you, whether it's financial security, whether it's experiencing the absolute love of your life, maybe for some of you abundance, like to me sometimes I view abundance as freedom. Like the ability to move about the world and to see and explore, and the idea that you could share that with somebody else makes it so much better, right? To share that with someone, to find somebody that has that same belief. Like what a beautiful thing. And who are we? The universe hands us this beautiful thing and we're just like, no, I'm not brave enough. I'm not brave enough to partake in this. I don't feel deserving enough. Or I'm afraid I'm going to lose something if I build this bridge with this person. If you have that kind of mentality, you're really going to be selling yourself short. I think this Venus-Pluto situation for you is very much bringing in a fated person or a fated relationship to you. And, you know, God hands you a gift. It's probably not really smart to turn it down. It's important to understand what resonates with you. If this is a relationship that truly feels like an adventure, then it's the right one for you. But if it's something that reminds you of heaviness and obligation, then take your time and allow things to adjust. I wouldn't make any rash moves right now, right? Because we're still in an adjustment phase. However, there is still action that needs to be taken, and the action really lies within your intentions right now. You might really be fighting yourself. Do I really want to do this? Do I want to invite this into my life? Maybe it's in the very early phases, and you're kind of having this inner conflict about it. Most likely the Venus retrograde will put things into perspective for you so that you could see the situation clearly and not, you know, you're processing through the fears and the insecurities. You're going to find your stability, and then you're going to find a way to be able to invest in this fully in the way that's right for you. And most likely it is a reflective of the way that it is right for the other person as well. This is soulmate energy. This is two very like-minded people coming together for the sake of making the world a better place, for the sake of believing in love again. There's purpose here. We don't want to end up in the Four of Cups. We want to end up in the Four of Wands, partaking in the beauty and the adventure of it. Sometimes playing it safe means we don't get to taste all the really good food. We don't get to go on all the adventures because we chose to play it safe. And that's kind of a sad place to be. All right, pile number 3. I'm going to leave it there. I hope that you have a beautiful week, and I will talk to you next week. Take care, guys.